Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cornelia Stephanie Show. It's Friday. I'm so excited. Transformation Talk Radio, Cornelia Stephanie Day. We usually have two podcasts from 12 to 2. Stay tuned for this. After this episode, we're going to be with Donette Palmore, and we're going to be talking about, your relationship with money. So important today. And Donette always brings amazing speakers and guests on as well. And we're going to be talking about, kids and money and how to shift your mindset and money and how important that is, especially in the changing world. So that's right after this podcast. So be sure to stay on. Now, for today, the stories of hope. I created the stories of hope to bring you amazing people that have gone through extraordinary triumphs and hardships in life and have overcome them and are now storytellers. And they're out there in the world helping people change their lives to make the world a better place all the way around. And so part of the storytelling is that when we share stories with our children, with our grandchildren, with our neighbors, people heal through stories. People can listen and they can identify, their own hardships, or they can resonate and see themselves in the story. And that is part of the reason for me creating this show. And also, I get to do what I'm passionate about, and that is to come on here and shine the spotlight on these amazing people that are here to help make the world a better place. And so I can't wait to introduce you to our first guest. Alexis Moore Eytinge is the founder of the Confidence Society. Don't you love that name, Confidence Society? We need to be a confident society in today's world. She works virtually with women to teach them self-defense. She is a certified life coach, and she is all about women's empowerment. And I love her bio, but I'm going to bring her on now and let her tell us a little bit more about herself. Welcome, Alexis.
Hi, Cornelia. Thanks for having me.
It's wonderful to have you. Thank you for saying yes and for coming on. So how did you get started in this field of work? Tell us a little bit about, your background, what it is that you do, and yeah.
So I currently am working with women going off to college and working on confidence. And part of that is self-defense, and knowing that you have control over your body and control over your actions, and you can make choices. Also, the concept of always knowing where your exit is just inspires me to support women and just like keeping yourself safe, whether that's the actual door or if that's like being able to go to a friend if you're having, mental health struggles or a relationship that's not going how you want. I, After college, I kind of lost my support network and ended up dating a series of unhealthy men, men who had other priorities, but also really embodied that romantic men that you see on television. I was watching George Clooney in a movie. I think it was Up in the Air, and just the other day during the pandemic, and I was like, he really reminds me of my ex, like that obsessive, like I'll do anything for this woman, and is totally sweet, but also is a bad boy. And just kind of this idea of like, I'll keep you safe, baby. I'm like, but will you keep me emotionally safe? So that's not, sorry, my cat's coming through.
Oh.
Can't help it. It's the pandemic. Anyway, I was with a particular man for about 5 years, and it was a roller coaster, and it was everything that I thought romance should be, but not it didn't feel safe. And I identify as a very confident woman, and that's what my friends and people I know acknowledge and identify about me and tell me like you're one of the most confident people I know. But being with this man in particular, I just I lost that confidence. One word from him that I, could benefit from losing some weight, sent me into this like, you know, spiral of like, yeah, sure, let's race to 30 pounds and, whatever it takes, to the point of like making myself sick. And, it's just like that's not me. I didn't like who I was in that relationship. I didn't um I became a bad friend. Like there's one story where I was bringing him up to meet my friend who was visiting from out of town, and we were 2 hours late, because of his business. Like that's not me. I'm not a 2 hour late person. So I was like, how did I get here, and how can I help other women not be here? Was kind of my lead up. Um, and I kind of was researching like women empowerment. I was also a Zumba instructor at the time, so it was like maybe personal training. Um, but I was I went to coaching school at Coach Training World in Portland, Oregon, which was an incredible program. I highly recommend looking it up. Ferocia is amazing. She's the head instructor. Um, and I was thinking about coaching women in healthy relationships, women my age, kind of in my tribe. And what I realized is that a lot of those women need therapy. Like I can't coach you out of being attached to unhealthy relationships, being attracted to that. Like it's not that it's too late. It's just that I don't have that skills. I didn't go to school to be a therapist, and I don't want to be a therapist. I want to work with women on pursuing positive goals forward, and someone else can work on your past and do the healing process, which is the difference between a coach and a therapist. Is like forward action, like a personal trainer versus a physical therapist. Like healing from injury versus training for the marathon.
Right, healing from traumas,
Hmm.
healing from the traumas, right?
Right. And so I realized that I wanted to work with younger women, and I've always like kind of leaned towards wanting to support younger women. I've always been frustrated with like such a sex education programs, not about like sex so much, but just about like not teaching people about relationships. Like what do you really teach? Like there's biology class, and then there's like saying no and respecting people's no. And you can start teaching that as young as like preschool, with like being like, Sally said no, you can't borrow her pencil, and just being okay with that. Go find another pencil, to use. So I ended up volunteering with a couple different organizations around girl empowerment, and a lot of it was self defense. One program in particular with the Portland Police Bureau in Oregon, the Girl Strength Program, working with middle school girls around confidence and also self defense skills. And so I kind of took some of that into my own business of working with women going off to college around independence skills, healthy relationships, identifying healthy relationships, including an activity which I love, which is called creating the relationship bill of rights. So, what do you deserve to have in any relationship you're in? And just being able to name it and see, like, oh, yeah, I'm not getting that in this relationship, and being able to set boundaries with people. And I feel
I
like
love
college
that.
should.
I love that. I've never heard of that before. Relationship Bill of Rights. It would be wonderful if we could, uh, tell the audience what exactly is that and give them this call to action right now to do in their relationships. Okay, so tell us about it.
The prompt is write out the words, in any relationship I am in, I deserve dot dot dot. In any relationship I am in, I deserve. I deserve to have fun. I deserve, this is my list, right? And then you fill it out for yourself. But I deserve to feel respect. I deserve to be respected. I deserve to have my voice heard. I deserve to, I'm able to make mistakes if I can make them better after, if I can make um, the word's escaping me, but I can make it better. I can make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. I deserve to be silly. I deserve to.
I deserve to shine.
I deserve to shine. Um, I deserve to feel supported in any relationship I am in. I deserve to feel like, um,
Honored?
honored. Yeah, there's all kinds of words. What else comes to mind?
Yeah.
Um, so, and this list can go on, and it's not something you set in stone, right? It's just something you work on. And I love working on this with younger women, but everybody can do it, just because it's something that they can identify. And especially with people going off to college where they have that rocky relationship with their parents, it's kind of like, can you do these things with your parents? And can you ask for that? Or can you set a boundary? Not in, the like anger kind of situation, but in a like, hey, I get to make mistakes and I'm sorry I made that mistake. What can I do to make it better? Just the other piece I teach in my classes how to make apologies.
Oh, okay.
Um, how to take feedback and how to make apologies, because I feel like in our culture we're not really, feedback is conflict in the making, right? Like you just get defensive a lot of the time, and it's like feedback doesn't have to be negative.
Yeah.
um
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, it sounds to me like what you're doing is you're building healthy self esteem. You're building up healthy self esteem. And because when women have high esteem, they're going to make high choices, really good choices, right? With in their relationships, in what careers they choose, in whatever they get involved in when they have a high esteem, and they're set up, from that place, and having healthy boundaries is important. Knowing how to ask for what it is that they need, and having that support, like you said, is so important. The confidence is a huge piece. That's why I love what you created with the Confidence Society, because when you look out there in the world, you don't really see people feeling really confident in what who they are, just because there's so much change going on. And if people haven't done that inner work, and really looked at how they feel about themselves, and how are they treated in their relationships, right? um, that's that's really important. So I think this work that you're doing is really great. I'm curious about the volunteer work that you did. What was that, so that you can get more training, or how did that come about?
it was while I was working on me, I was looking for other coaches doing the same kind of stuff that I wanted to do, and I found this organization that was essentially doing kind of something similar. And so I did do training. I I've tallied like all my hours, and I have like 250 hours of training around like uh call to safety, like picking up phones for domestic violence, and teaching self defense. And for this particular program, it was a 3 month training to be a volunteer. It was pretty intense. And learning to teach physical self defense skills was just, I think, really valuable. And I valued how simple it could be. That I think I see a lot of people being like showing up in their gym clothes and being like, you got to be able to like flip somebody. It's like, no, what are you really going to be able to do in that moment? What is the average person going to be able to do? And really, the reality is, here's some skills to not get in a situation where you need to have a physical altercation, like get out before that situation happens, which is kind of about the relationship skills, and also just listening to your intuition. Do a big portion on intuition, because if your spidey sense tells you that someone's not safe, listen to it. Whether someone else says the opposite, if your gut is taking in all that information that your brain isn't processing consciously and telling you that person's not safe, that person's not safe.
Yeah.
Um, and then physical self-defense skills are just like simple, like what do you need? Like, I know people kind of get a little uncomfortable about the idea of damaging someone's eyes, but if they can't see you, they can't come after you. So really, like, probably your best bet. And it's easy. If you've ever had like a speck of dirt in your eye, you know how
Oh, yeah.
upsetting it is, right? It's really easy to make the eyes water so you have a chance to get away. I see a lot of people, trying to, do other more complicated things in movies, and I play the game with myself of like watching a TV show where there's an attacker situation. I'm like, what moves would I do to get out of that quicker?
Yeah. See,
Uh,
those are great questions that you ask yourself that normally you wouldn't even think about asking, especially nowadays, with with so much unrest going on, you could find yourself at the wrong place at the wrong time,
Absolutely.
so quickly that
And
it's important important to know how you would respond.
right? I feel like our country is in a situation where people might need, like, these skills would definitely be helpful, especially if we are indeed headed towards depression and more people are pushed to crime because they don't have money to support themselves. Like, there's a lot of potential out there, um, aside from just your regular day life where the number, you're more likely to be attacked by somebody you know.
Yeah.
Um, and so just being able to sense when to get out of relationships.
Yeah, I think it's so important, especially domestic violence. I mean, women being
Mhm.
in relationships, toxic relationships where they're being devalued and mistreated and not being honored and reverent for the amazing, beautiful beings that they are, but women have to be able to know when to draw the line and say enough is enough and then find the support and the resources to get out. I wanted to let the audience know a little bit about how they can get in contact with you because you teach these classes, you're available for sessions and different things. And how can people find you if they want to learn more about some of these skills that you've been sharing with us today?
Yeah, go to www.theconfidencesociety.com. That's my website, theconfidencesociety.com. There's a freebie on there if you want to sign up for 4 steps to get away. So kind of some simple, basic physical safety tips on there. I have a 28 move self defense course available online if you want to try that out. And then I'm happy to do some one on one coaching if you want to talk about other things, build out your relationship bill of rights. Um, and then I have some courses that are kind of in flux, some workshops coming up too. Check it
Yeah,
out.
I think that's really cool. I mean, and then especially now, for women that are listening to this, our audience is predominantly women, and women, for you that are listening to this, these are perfect courses to purchase for your children and for your grandchildren and for your friends, so that we can empower women to be confident and to be strong and to be tapped into that inner courage so that they can be a contributor of nonviolence, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, we have a couple minutes left. What would you say to what is it that you want to say to our audience today? What is it that you want to leave us with?
Um, Gosh, I think that you deserve to feel safe, not just be safe, but to feel safe. And that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But I think you take it to the 10 on the spectrum of what is safe to you, um, and that I I mean, some people have mixed feelings about settling, but I don't think you have to. I think if you can learn to love yourself, being single is the time to kind of figure out just what do you love to do, what do you like about yourself, who do you love to spend time with, um, and then and then maintain that wonderful person in relationship and not have to compromise on who you are. Compromise on, what day of the week you do laundry, sure. But, not necessarily anything about the fabulous you, because you're fabulous. And people should love you for who you are and will love you for who you are. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I think that the most attractive quality about a person is their confidence. I think this is the most attractive, like, if people aren't like really a beautiful looking person or whatever, but if they have confidence, that's actually what makes them beautiful, because when you have that level of confidence, you can do anything.
You can.
You can do anything. And I think that right there is why your work is so important, helping women become confident in the confident society. Alexis, it was so awesome to have you on. Thank you so much for coming on, sharing on the stories of hope today. And we're going to take a break right now, and we'll be right back with our next guest.
Thanks, Cornelia.
So excited to introduce you now to my next guest, Maria Aleandra. And she is a coach. She's an entrepreneur. She has her own podcast. You can see her all over Instagram, YouTube. She'll tell us more about where to find her. But this is what she does. She helps women go from I wish to I am. Welcome to the show today.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for having me, Cornelia. What a pleasure. And yeah, hi everybody.
Yay. Hi. All right. So you have an incredible story to share with us today about something that our listeners are going to be able to identify, that, oh yeah, this is definitely helping me and I needed to hear this. And what is that core message?
Yeah. So the core message really for me is the one of the things I talk about a lot in this quest of going from I wish to I am is finding that sweet spot between our inner drive and our divine wisdom. And you can also call that match between the divine masculine and the feminine. It comes in a lot of different ways. And part of what I'm passionate about is really helping visionary women to find their voice and clarify their purpose and begin to create the momentum and tap into the mindset and the magic within them to generate things that they may have been wishing and wanting and desiring to do for a while, and actually get them uh, build that forward momentum to build the action to generate them. And I'm passionate about supporting visionary women, and these are entrepreneurs, leaders in different spaces. And regardless of what you do, you could be working in a corporate office, you could be a coach, you could be a mom. If you have that visionary fire within you, it means that there's something about your life, the experience around you, your community, that you're desiring to shift. There's a paradigm shift that you've come here to kind of recalibrate and reshape. And because that's been part of my own experience of tapping into that truth within me and taking action on that like still small voice, that I love sharing that message and supporting other women through, whether it's one-on-one coaching, group coaching, or through the different offerings that I have to really make that light up and happen.
How did
Yeah.
that, like, what happened in your life? Like, what were you doing before you got to this place? What
Yeah.
happened in your life that got you there?
Yeah. So I worked in on the corporate side for many, many years, pretty much out of college. I worked for a media company. I did marketing and branding and basically climbed up the ranks. So pretty much for, gosh, it was like 16 years I worked in a corporate setting. And I always had that knowing that there was something more. I was great at my job. It was like, all the sort of check marks were being ticked, but there was something else that I knew was calling me forth. And my big turnaround happened towards the end of 2015. I noticed I deepened through a series of personal challenges. I deepened my desire to understand what my purpose was, as so often happens to many of us. And that set me off on a path that culminated when in early 2018, I was laid off from a job. And this was a very high profile job. And I was a senior marketing director in the company that I worked in. So it seemed like that was going to be the path, the track, like everything is set up, and I was laid off. And of course it was, you know, I was preparing myself behind the scenes to make a big shift that I didn't know how it would happen, because the whole time I was like, I have no idea. So then this shakes me to the core. Interesting story. That very same day, my husband and I had purchased our first home. We had literally signed the contract on our very first home. We had a 1-year-old son, and I was, my position was eliminated due to some corporate restructures that they were doing. So that really opened me up to asking myself the question, well, okay, where do I get to go now? And I knew that it was a time for me to get really courageous and clear about what I wanted to create, because I could have just as easily gone into another corporate setting and gone back on that hamster wheel. But instead, I chose to shift and really pivot into a new way of really creating my life. And my husband at the time was a teacher. Eventually, we decided for him to also leave his teaching position, so we shifted into him working. We started working together. And that's really been in the past like year and a half that all of these massive changes have happened. And then now there's been an even deepening of our purpose and how we show up in the world, because my husband was diagnosed with ALS about 6 months ago. And that has, of course, shaken us to the core and called in like a new level of how do we get to live? How do we get to lead? How do we get to create what's possible given such a challenging circumstance? So that's a little bit about what brought me here and kind of where I find myself now.
No, it's really good that you shared that, because so many people are finding themselves right now at a crossroad. There, because a lot of people are looking, if this isn't the direction that I feel passionate in, or the job is no longer, or the company folded, or whatever it is,
Mm.
that to relax into knowing and ask the question, what direction am I heading in now? Because on some level, you had said you already knew a little bit that something's off, something, so you were already feeling it. And then when
Mhm.
it happened, it's kind of like a bittersweet thing, the fact that you guys had just purchased your house. It's like, yay, we just bought our first home. Wow, that's such a fantastic bliss, bliss, bliss. And then
Yeah.
you're like, okay, now, but the income that you were counting on to, you know, to take
Mhm.
care of that is the bittersweet, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and even at that moment, we backtracked. We were able to get out of the house purchase because it just, it really wasn't congruent with where we were, and we said, "Let's just pause everything." And it really was, and again, a combination of what I had already been cultivating within myself to move in a new direction, not knowing how that would come to be, but at that moment, it felt like, okay, this is getting a big shove. And like you said, a lot of people are getting that shove right now, that unexpected, your world is turned upside down. And yet if you follow the breadcrumbs of what you've been desiring and what you've been cultivating and what the things that have been lighting you up in the past, there's something there. And yes, it takes a very courageous leap of faith and leap in faith to embark in something new. But when we resource ourselves with other people that have been there, when we build community with others who have, walked that path, then that was a big part of what helped me once I had that big, shakeup. And I said, okay, well, how can I find others that have a similar journey? Whereas before I'd been in this very corporate space, I now shifted to really surrounding myself with community of other entrepreneurs, of other people that had already walked the path, other women who I saw had shifted into that. So that gave me a sense of possibility. Um, and I would say that's probably one of the really incredible opportunities, like you said, in those bittersweet moments where it's like, what now? And turning that into, okay, well, what now? Like from the place of what could happen with my life now that nothing is certain anymore.
Yes, that's also a big one. It's a whole topic of living
Hmm.
living in the uncertainty and being comfortable in that. To know, it sounds to me like you have a spiritual connection, a strong spiritual connection, because of the words you used as
Hmm.
divine masculine, divine feminine. Did you have the spiritual connection already prior to 2018, or was this something that you cultivated after?
Yeah, what a beautiful question. I did, absolutely. And it was sort of like more behind the scenes. Like it was part of who I was. Um, Maybe a little bit dormant at times. Definitely part of how I've resonated since I was very little, but living in a world where that maybe wasn't what I was hearing, there was just the deeper knowing. And the more I've embraced my authenticity, the more I've been able to, again, align that part of me that's very driven, very strategic, that businesswoman in me that, can create anything, and that intuitive, wise aspect of me that really has brought everything together in a magnificent way.
Yeah, and I love, your the energy of what you're talking about. Like I said when I opened and introduced you, I wish to I am. You're helping women do that. It is truly all about the divine feminine rising. So, yes,
Mhm.
and I see you doing that. It's wonderful that you're helping women entrepreneurs right now in, being, stepping into their I am and
Yes.
coming into their own, right? And so let's
Yes.
tell the audience where to find you, give us all the social media information.
Yeah. So the quickest way is if you go on Instagram at Maria Alejandra. It's like Alexandra without the X altogether. And from there you can find my website, which is the same name.com. But on Instagram, you can you can find links to my podcast, my YouTube channel, and all the good stuff. Yeah. I'd be delighted to connect with whoever's resonant with the message to come over and say hello.
Absolutely, absolutely. And definitely, thank you so much for coming on, for shining your light, and for staying true
Thank
to
you.
who you are, that beautiful self that is emerging, into, this blossoming. This is what it seems like. And I wish you and your husband much good health, and your daughter, right? You have a
Yeah.
daughter?
A son. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's good. Well,
he'll be 4. He'll be 4 next month.
okay. Wow. Look at time goes by so quick. Well, thank
Yeah.
you so much for coming on and, blessing us with you and your message today. We're going to
Mhm.
take a break and we'll be right back.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for that. Yeah. Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to the Cornelia Stephanie Show. I'm so excited about introducing you to my next guest. This is the first time we've had a physician assistant and a health coach on Stories of Hope, because we know that our health is in our wealth. That is where the true wealth really comes from, because when we're healthy and we are feeling good and we're taking care of ourselves, that's how we can support each other and make the world a better place. My next guest is Debbie Mohezian, and she is a physician assistant and a health coach. She's all about prevention, and uh, her passion is in health and disease prevention, and she gets to the root core of what causes disease and helps people translate and transform that. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, it's wonderful to have you. We were talking before you came on and how you got started. So what is your core message today that you want to share with the audience?
I want everyone to really understand and know and believe that they have the power to take control of their own health, and that each one of us can live a life without medications and feel good and love the body that we're in and really take control. That's the main thing.
So how did you get started? I know that you graduated from the University of Michigan, and you got your degrees in as a physician assistant. Is this something that you did because you had your own health crisis, or were you inspired by, that was just the field that you chose?
Yeah, really, it was because growing up, I was always really encouraged to go get a very stable, secure type of a career so I could support myself. And I was really always interested in helping people. And I had an older sister who was into medicine and kind of followed in her footsteps. And so it's so interesting because I ended up in this field of medicine. However, things really changed in the last several years of the way that I actually look at medicine. And it was like a gradual, thing that happened through my adult life. And it started with I had a friend who she was a young woman, and we both had young babies, and she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And it was pretty devastating, obviously, for her. And then for me, it was really scary. I just thought, this is like my really beautiful, young, healthy friend. How is it that she has something like cancer? And that just really made me start to think, like, what are we doing to ourselves? What are we putting into our bodies that could create something like that? And it was really interesting because as a PA, I was treating patients, but there was that disconnect, with that it became very personal once it was a friend of mine with this diagnosis. And then so I started very slowly at that time kind of thinking like, well, what are we doing to ourselves to get us in these, disease processes or problems like that? And then kind of fast forward several years, there was a lot of family history in my husband's family, a lot of cancer. Again, there was this big scare of cancer. And I started to think like, well, what can I do to protect my kids? Because I had two beautiful baby girls, and, through genetics, I was really worried with my husband's family history, like what's going to happen to them. And so I became very focused on what can I do to prevent, them from having that kind of disease. And then fast forward a little bit longer, I really got into this rut as a PA. I was practicing medicine, cardiology. Most of my experience has been in cardiology. And, cardiology or heart disease is still the #1 killer of Americans. And I was in this field of medicine that was so prevalent. And I just hit this, I fell into this rut where I felt like I'm just not happy. I'm not feeling fulfilled. What's wrong? Like I have this amazing job, this great career, but something was totally missing. And it really just hit me one day when the doctor that I worked with really could pick up on my, my energy of not really being into it anymore. And he's like, Debbie, what's going on? What's wrong? Like, I can feel like something's different. And I didn't even know until he sat me down and he asked me. And I thought to myself, and I just blurted it out. And I said, I'm not making the impact that I want to make. And all of these years of patients kind of came flooding through my mind of people coming back in over and over and over with the same complaints and a recurrence and their weight going up and them getting sicker and sicker. And I just was like, oh, this isn't what I really wanted to do. And so what ended up happening is that soon after that, I found the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. It was this association that I had no idea was out there. And their main thing is that they teach practitioners about the power of lifestyle changes to actually get to the root cause of diseases and to reverse them, to improve them, and to not just continue to give medication after medication. And then to kind of come full circle, right at that time, my husband was told that he was pre-diabetic. And so again, back to my husband and his family history, his mother had been diagnosed with lung cancer, and she still has it. She's had it for 10 years and she's been basically dying for 10 years. It's just this awful situation, but she never took initiative to take control of her health. And then his father had obesity and heart disease and diabetes, and my husband and I watched him deteriorate over the last 30 years because of this. And so when my husband became diagnosed with prediabetes, it was like, whoa, it really hit him hard. And he's like, there's no way. I'm not going to get put on medications. I'm not going to continue to follow in his footsteps. Like, I am taking control. And he actually already was pretty health conscious, but not to the degree that he needed to be, obviously. And it was just so interesting and a miracle, because around that exact time was when I was learning what I call the truth about food and disease and what really is the cause of type 2 diabetes. And so we were able to make some changes, and he was able to basically reverse it. And he improved his blood pressure, he improved his cholesterol, and he was no longer pre-diabetic anymore. He didn't need medications. And so I was like, wow, this is it. This is what I want to do. And everything, has been different since then in the way that I approach medicine and patient care.
I love it. I love this story. And I love, how you were inspired by your friend. What about your friend? Did she overcome breast cancer? Is she cancer free now?
Yeah, so she taught me a really good lesson. She started to do a lot of research when she was diagnosed. She didn't just like hand over her care to the doctors. She did go through the typical treatment. She had a mastectomy, she had chemo, and she was really ill, but at the same time she was doing tons of research. And she's what really inspired me to start taking a look. And just great news. She thought she was never going to be able to have kids again. She ended up going in remission. She had a third child, and she's healthy today. So it's amazing.
Wow, I love that. And what about your father-in-law? Is he still alive and kicking? Is he
He
still?
is, he is, but unfortunately, we've tried really hard to help him take control, and he's just in that mindset that he's got this disease, and he's not willing to do what it takes, unfortunately. So he's still alive, but he's pretty miserable, unfortunately, and it inspires us every day to keep the idea of what we want, our goals, front and center, because we know that we have the power, and we're teaching our kids same thing. They have the power. So
Yeah, I love that. And I saw this on your bio too. We're going to put the bio in the YouTube description for those of you that are going to watch it on YouTube. Is cancer proof your body. I love that, cancer proof your body. So you specialize right now, your focus on type 2 diabetes, right? So what's the number one thing that people can do right now to prevent type 2 diabetes?
The number one thing that people can do to prevent it is to take a look at what they're putting in their body when it comes to food. They're, the standard American diet is what is leading to all of our health problems. It's leading to stroke and diabetes and heart disease and Alzheimer's disease. And the beautiful thing about it is that if you are preventing one, you're preventing all of them. And so it's amazing that if you just start to look at what the foods are that you're putting in your body and how they actually affect your body, it's so much different than the typical, if you want, say example, if you want to lose weight, because a lot of people think they're at risk for diabetes if they're overweight, which is true. And they're told, eat less and exercise more. But it's so much more than that. It's what are you putting in your body? There are foods that lead to, the disease process, and then there are foods that actually heal our bodies. And so that would be the number one thing, is to actually take a look at what the foods are, read labels, and really learn about, insulin resistance is what the underlying problem of diabetes is.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big one, isn't it? And people just don't know what stage they're at or where they're at. But you also are a health coach, and so you offer your services to people. How can people contact you for a consultation?
Well, I have a private Facebook community called Say Goodbye to Diabetes. And so that's where people can kind of come in, they can get to know me, they can have support of others, and then they can hear all about, events I have coming up and things like that. And that's probably the best way. I do have a Facebook page that's Facebook / it's all about prevention, but the actually name of the group is Mindful Health and Wellness. And those are the two best ways to reach me.
So Facebook, all about prevention. Is that how to find you? Yeah. And should they contact you via Facebook? Would that be the best way to go about it?
Yeah, so there is, so my Facebook, there's a Facebook page, which is, it's all about prevention. And then there's my Facebook group called Say Goodbye to Diabetes. So if you just search under the groups in Facebook, Say Goodbye to Diabetes, you'll find my group. There's also a link that you said you'll include here. It's www.diabetesturnaroundseries.com.
Yes, and is that an event that you're producing right now? Because we were talking about that you're doing a summit where people can get involved and people can listen to you leading a summit. So, and that's the link that you just said. When does that summit begin? And give us that link again.
Yeah, so that starts to air interviews next Monday, September 28th. And that website again is www.diabetesturnaroundseries.com. And this is a free event where I'm bringing together over 20 people, health experts, because I believe that education is the number one thing. When people, know, they understand, they can take one step towards it, and then it just snowballs. And so I'm bringing all of these health experts so that people can truly learn the truth and take control.
That is wonderful. I love the work that you're doing. I love how you're empowering people. And it looks like the niche right now is the type 2 diabetes niche. And so many people are, like you said, suffering from that or are on their way to it. And what you're talking about is taking a look at where you're at and looking at what foods you're putting in your mouth, and so that you can extend your life force, that you can extend your health, and that you can extend your life here on earth.
And happiness, yeah. And the thing about diabetes that's so important to understand is that by the time you're diagnosed, it's been like progressing for many years. And so it's super important to know what your numbers are. Go to your preventive visits and get the lab work that really looks specifically to see if you have the signs, the early signs of type 2 diabetes.
Yeah, good. Well, thank you so much, Debbie Mohizin. Thank you for being on today, for sharing your gifts with the world. We look forward to seeing you again. And everybody, go sign up for that free summit. This is the best time to get the education, like Debbie said, and get empowered and take the reins on your own healing. So thank you, everybody, for listening and for tuning in to the Kornelia Stephanie Show. We'll see you again next time. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.